So today, for Menopause Month, we are talking to Tracy Seider. Tracy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, Emily. Thanks for having me. I am in Canada. I'm in Toronto. My name is Tracy. I'm originally from South Africa, which is the weird accent. And I am a movement coach. So what that means is that I have a background in yoga and restorative exercise. And I'm showing people how to move their bodies better and why alignment and better movement matters. In a nutshell.
So today we're going to talk about how sucking in your tummy can have really horrible effects. So do you want to just start explaining, because we've all been conditioned to want to have a flat tummy, haven't we? So we suck it in and we try and breathe in all the time. Over to you as to what damage that's doing to us and how we can rectify it.
Awesome. So just to backtrack a little bit, sorry, I just forgot to mention something in terms of what I do. I fall into the Fitness Hub, which is an awesome hub to be in. I love the lovely ladies that are in my hub and I learn so much from them. But I'd like to expand that just a little bit, because fitness is a subcategory of movement. And I would like to broaden the conversation to be talking more about movement and how fitness is a part of that, but that there are other things that we should be doing over and above fitness. Because often we take these poor movement habits into our fitness routines as well. So what I'm talking about today, we're going to be talking about something called intra-abdominal pressure, which isn't necessarily fitness, but it is certainly movement, and it does affect your fitness. So what do we mean by intra-abdominal pressure? What is that? So I have this very sophisticated model to show you what intra-abdominal pressure is. Highly anatomically correct. So the thorax of the body can be divided into three cavities. You've got your thoracic cavity, which is the ribs and the lungs. Everything above the diaphragm, right? The abdominal cavity, which is from the diaphragm below and your intestines, and then the pelvic cavity. So, as Emily said, we've kind of been conditioned by culture to suck in our tummies to get this nice flat line that is what we're all after. And particularly as perimenopause comes, we tend to get a bit of a meno belly, no matter what we do, we can't get rid of. But we need to be aware of what's happening when we suck in our tummies, and also when we wear compressive garments, which I'm just flooded with ads on Facebook all the time. Like they definitely don't have my number. Because what happens is these cavities are, they're liquidy and they've got organs inside and they're squishy and they change shape. So when we're sucking in our tummy, all that stuff is going somewhere, okay? It's either going up or it's going down, or it's going more up or it's going more down, or some combination of the two. But there is a consequence to sucking in the tummy. If the stuff's coming up, we can get things like hiatal hernias. It can restrict our ability to breathe, which then affects the ability of the whole core system to work. If it's going down, if it's creating a lot of downward pressure and movement, that is exacerbating or causing any pelvic floor issues or bladder issues. But specifically what I want to address right now is what's happening in this abdominal cavity. In that this sucking in habit that we have can create constipation and or combination of that and diarrhea. And why does that matter? That matters for so many reasons, but it specifically matters in the perimenopause, menopause stage, because clearing our bodies of toxins and excess estrogen is critical in this stage, because we're playing this dance. There's this fine balance going on between our reproductive hormones. And we don't want to get into a stage, yeah, having estrogen is great, but having excess estrogen is not great either, because then you're low on progesterone relative to the estrogen, and that can create a lot of perimenopause issues, both with the low progesterone and the high estrogen. So we want to have daily bowel movements. The one aspect of that is what you eat. The other aspect of that is watch your sucking in of your belly and your pressure. Those muscles need to be relaxed and a good resting tension. So let me show you an exercise that you can do. Oh, it's not so much an exercise as just a non-exercise, which is the best kind of exercise, right? So come onto your hands and knees. Do you have any questions about that before I go on to the undo?
So far, that all makes sense. It makes perfect sense that if our abdomen is restricted, it is going to cause any number of problems. And obviously, once you bring in estrogen dominance as an issue, we want to be avoiding that wherever we can. So that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So you come onto your hands and knees. Let me see if you can see me here. Hang on. This is really the easiest exercise in the entire universe. May not be so psychologically easy, but physically very easy. Hang on a sec. I want you to see me on the mat. Right. So you come onto your hands and knees. Okay. And all you do, you see my belly here? Let me just create one with a different wall. Right? This is how I'm a big belly sucker, you know? It's such a habit for so many of us. You just let go. And as one of my teachers, Katie Bowman, says, you get extra points if it hits the floor. So you just want to release the tension. And many of us are not even aware the amount of tension that we're holding. This is called the abdominal release. And the first time, when I started practicing this, your muscles just almost, they want to keep coming up, so you just relax them. We're not pushing them down, important, okay? We're not pushing the belly out. We just being aware if there's any tension that's holding the belly up and releasing the tension. So that belly is sitting, the muscles in the belly are at a good resting tension. The reason, and then that also becomes important for how the whole core system functions. Because if your belly and abs are being held tight all the time, that means when you come to exercise, when you come to lift up a heavy box, or if you're doing your Pilates or your yoga or whatever, those muscles are already tight. So if you think of a bicep muscle that's already tight, and then you want it to tighten, and now you're asking it to do work, it's like, well, there's nowhere for it to go, you know? We don't want to be keeping muscles tight all the time. We want them at a good resting tension so that there's force for them to generate when we want them to work and generate. And you'll see this with kids, that they're standing there, their bellies are just hanging out, and you ask them to do something and they go for it and their bellies just suck in and go. But if you're sucking it in already, and now we're asking you to do leg lifts or whatever, something else is going to be going on in the body, okay? Which then now leads me to the other thing that creates intra-abdominal pressure, and that is how our whole core system functions with the breath. And if we are creating downward pressure when we come to move or exercise, or upward pressure. Now, the creation of that downward pressure really matters as well when we are coming to the perimenopause, menopause area, because there are changes happening in our muscle mass, in the pelvic floor area too, those are muscles, in our muscle strength, as well as changes that are happening with the ligaments and in the bladder and in the urethra. So this core strategy that we have, that is a downward pressure, may have been fine up to a certain point, and then suddenly you hit this age and it's like, whoa, the wheels fall off. It's like, what happened and where did that come from. You know, the body will hold it together for so long. And then when those changes start coming, you may notice that things are going on that never used to go on before. What I wanted to look at here is just a little bit of what our current breathing and core engagement strategies are. So the first thing I want you to look at is just sit comfortably and close your eyes for a second and just breathe normally. Now take a couple of deeper breaths. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. And now think for a moment. Breathing in and breathing out, we're creating an upward movement of air and a downward movement of air, or a downward movement of air or an upward movement of air. There's some sense of direction. So tell me, Emily, when you breathe in, is that a downward movement or an upward movement? And when you breathe out, is it a downward movement or an upward movement?
When I breathe in, it feels like an upward movement because my shoulders raise.
Mm-hmm.
And when I breathe out, it feels like a downward movement because it feels like everything relaxes.
Yes. So that is very common. And totally my breathing strategy when I started this work, where you breathing in, it's an upward movement, and you're breathing out, it's a downward movement. It's a reflex that we've overridden, and what should really be happening, I hate the word should, but it's actually anatomically what is happening. We're just overriding it. When you breathe in, the diaphragm goes down and the pelvic floor should be relaxed. So in other words, when we breathe in, it should be a downward movement. You should feel a downward kind of movement and a relaxation of the pelvic floor. And when you breathe out, it should be an upward movement and a tightening of the abs in response to that, so that the very deep abs are nice and tight and working when you then come to do a core movement. So let's see if we can start to work on that just a little bit. What we really want to do to get that, what's going to help you get that, because often we're so locked down in our ribs. We don't even know that our ribs should be doing all the moving when we move. A lot of us are big belly breathers, and belly breathers certainly has its place for calming down the nervous system, but it doesn't really have a place when it comes to getting functional, deep engagement of the core muscles. So a lot of us have just become belly breathers because our whole thoracic spine and ribs have become locked down. So let's try and get more movement into the ribs. That's where we're going to start, okay? So you can put your hands kind of just below your boobs and wrap them around your ribs here, okay? And also you're saying you're feeling the upward movement because a lot of us are breathing up here at our scaly neck muscles because our ribs aren't going anywhere. What we want to try and achieve is this 3D movement of the ribs when we breathe, okay? So let's start by blowing all the air out and closing the ribs a little bit. And now breathe in. And feel the ribs moving sideways into your hands more. Blow out. Feel the ribs collapse. The ribs kind of just collapse like an umbrella and expand and open sideways. So try that a couple of times. Are you getting a bit of a sense of how the ribs, these lower ribs, can move laterally? They can move sideways more. Yeah. So breathe out. Now breathe in and move your ribs sideways. Nice. Now breathe out. Okay, that's looking great. Now try and get a sense when you breathe in that there's a downward movement, that the pelvic floor is relaxing. Can you feel that now?
Yeah.
And when you breathe out, now I want you to hiss out. And you may feel that there's this upward contraction and deep corseting. That means your deep abdominal muscles are starting to switch on.
Yeah, I can feel them waking up. And, yes.
Fantastic. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to leave that there for 1 second and let's jump on. So that's a great thing to practice. We then layer that on to how the core works and functions. And I just wanted to add that this whole like a core engagement training thing that I'm showing you today, I learned from my teacher, Lauren O'Hoyan, who's the director and creator of the program called Restore Your Core. And I'm a certified Restore Your Core Pro teacher. And it is a movement program designed to help you get more in touch with your breath. And it's kind of a yoga, Pilates, corrective exercise movement program. It's an online program that you can buy, and I will include a link to that. And if people have any questions about that, or if they would like to, I may be able to offer them a coupon code. I do this program. After years, I'm still doing the program because it's training you to get your core and your breath to work together, so that when you come to do your Pilates or you come to do your yoga, your fitness, those core muscles are just kicking in. And I'll show you what we mean by that. Okay. I don't suppose there's any way for you to lie on the floor.
There isn't, not here, unfortunately, no.
Let's have a look and see what our core strategy actually is. Okay. So we come to lie on the floor, and I'm sure this is something that you do in your fitness classes, all the viewers, right? So you come to do something like this, right? Is this an exercise that you do?
Yep.
Okay, so let's see. You put your hands on your tummy, okay? And you lift one leg, and then you lift the other leg. What is the tummy doing? If your tummy is lifting up and bulging, okay, that is an indicator that we're not using our core correctly. All we're doing is turning on the superficial rectus abdominis muscle, and we are exercising and doing core exercises that are creating downward pressure, which is something we certainly do not want in perimenopause and menopause, or any time for that matter. So this is a test to do. Lift one leg up, lift the other leg up. If you have prolapse, but probably advise against doing this for too long. But this whole core work is also certainly involved in helping to resolve some prolapse issues. So the first no is when we come to use our abs, we want no bulging. Can you see me bulging here? I want to show you what bulging is. Okay, I'm lifting here. You see how it popped up? Okay, that's a no. The next no is no bracing. And what we mean by bracing is that feeling of, if I come to punch you in the tummy, a lot of people will brace. For example, they'll come into a plank, and before they even start it, they'll brace and then come up, right? That's creating a lot of intra-abdominal pressure and downward pressure. So we got no bulging, no bracing. And the next one is bearing down. Bearing down is that feeling of evacuating, which we often do if we in like lunges or something, or if we're lifting a heavy weight, we'll bear down and then lift up. Okay. So we want no bulging, no bracing, no bearing down, and of course no breath holding, because the breath holding creates a lot of pressure. So those are the no's. What are the yeses? The yes is that sense of what you were feeling on the exhale, okay? So here's a nice way to just check for that. You can come onto your hands and knees, and this is something that is taught in many exercise classes, okay? This whole lifting here and lifting here, right? And I know certainly when I was teaching yoga or before I started this work, my body was doing all sorts of things to do that move without really understanding what we were wanting it to do. Or what happens is that we land up doing exercise because we're told do exercise, it's good for you, and you're doing the exercise in such a way that it's actually damaging you, and that is what we don't want. So what we can do here is we want to get that feeling of breathing in, getting that 3D rib movement where the ribs are moving sideways and back to front. And this can be a struggle for many people, which is why there's a whole program and why I teach one-on-one classes to give people exercises and tips and ideas of how to get more movement back into their ribs so that they're not just belly breathing all the time. Because if you're belly breathing, you can't get the deep core engagement. So you breathe in, you hiss out, and then you can start doing exercises and loading your core from there. Because this is a great one to do, these hand lifts and leg lifts, because what we don't want to happen is that we want stability right through the body. We don't want to be going like that and having the body move around, because that is not challenging and working the core. We want to be able to get a deep, stable core engagement, which, so again, you breathe in. I like to start by breathing out, breathe in. You can hiss or blow like you're blowing out candles in front of you. Keep an eye on what's happening in my belly here. You may be able to see how it suctions and corsets. That's what we want. So yes, it is navel to spine. It is a coming in and up of the core, which pulls the pelvic floor muscles with it. But it's organic. It's not forced, which is often a cue that we are given in exercise classes. You want it to be happening as a mechanism, and as it sucks up the pelvic floor and sucks in and turns on your deep, your TVAs and your obliques. So if we try this again, let's see if we can see my belly corseting. Breathe in, hiss out. Now I can feel that this is all on, and now when I come to do this is working my core very, very deeply. I'm talking, which means I'm not breath holding, but it is a ton of work, and I'm not bearing down. So try that at home. Any
That's
questions?
really interesting. That's really interesting. From the point of view of working as a personal trainer, I encourage people to have a neutral spine, which I think is in many ways actually achieving a similar thing, because again, I'm fully aware that the rotational movement in that exercise is not what we're after.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd never thought about actually how much, and I know my core automatically, because I, through years of doing Pilates and fitness and stuff, you feel it, but then actually watching you do that and seeing your core become a corset was really, really powerful.
Yeah, previous to understanding what the mechanism was, your body only knows what it knows. And if we're not giving it the words or the understanding of what you're actually wanting to achieve, it will try to do its best. But what it may be doing is creating this pressure that we don't want. So we want to turn on those deep abdominals. We want to find that stability, but without creating the pressure onto the pelvic floor. Because certainly for me, my body did not know that was even an option of how to move until I was shown that as an option. For some people, it can take a while to even get that corseting feeling, especially if they've had birth trauma, or C-sections. That whole area needs to be turned on again, or if there's a diastasis recti and ab separation, or if someone's had a hysterectomy, there needs to be a little bit of specific training and helping people how to activate these lower ab muscles again. Because the other thing is, a lot of us, when we come to activate these muscles, these obliques come on first. Yeah. We don't want this movement of the obliques, because that's going to create downward pressure. We want that sucking in and corseting to be coming from here, like you're doing up a zipper. And that can be a bit challenging for people to resolve too. But try it at home and let me know in the comments. Are you a belly breather? Are you a tummy sucker? Do you brace, bulge, bear down when you come to do a movement? Like what you can try and do is you can take a weight. Okay, let me stand here. All right, and lean forward. And it's like, well, what is your body doing to fight back? Is it bearing down? Is it bulging up? What is your body doing? Try rather and do this sucking up feeling and feel how the whole direction comes off those pelvic floor muscles. Sorry, I was saying for me, yeah, I was having stress incontinence and urge incontinence, and I was certainly did not have the correct core strategy, and that was exacerbating my symptoms. So there are absolutely things that go on with changes in the body with the estrogen and how that affects what's happening in the bladder. But certainly it's pretty easy for us to control the controllables, and ab engagement is something that can be learned quite quickly and easily. So what we do is we training the abs to come on like that, and it seems like, oh, do I have to like think about this, breathe, blow, you know, before I do anything? Yes, at first you do, because you are re-establishing the reflex. But after a while, that then just starts to come on by itself. And I remember the first time I was driving in my car, and I turned a corner and I could just feel these abs coming on to counterbalance me. And it was like, oh, what's that? So it certainly does become reflex again, because the issue with the downward pressure is in the exercise, fitness, running, all those kind of things that we're doing, which are taking the downward pressure that we have as our default and then adding load on top of it, okay, because now you're doing a Pilates class. But as well, we're moving around, even just talking is affecting what's happening to your pelvic floor. And if you're having this I can never think of the term, if you're not having this breathe out, lift action, then talking is a breathing out, talking is an exhale. So if you're having this breathing out and it's creating a downward thing, so you go, yes, and it's downward instead of yes, it's upward, you're creating that pressure on your bladder and your pelvic floor all day long. Just talking, just lifting things, just moving around. So, yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you so much, because as you say, it's really simple exercises that we can all incorporate into everyday life without thinking, oh God, I need to have a yoga mat and a studio and all the rest. It's literally thinking about where you're breathing from and feeling those core muscles engaging. That's brilliant.
And just going back to the first interview that we did on alignment, where we were talking about the positioning of the ribs, that's where this becomes important as well. We don't want those ribs up and lifted, because if our ribs are up and lifted, we can't get that nice rib movement that we're after. Plus, our abdominals are now too long, and that reflex movement of them turning on is not going to happen if our ribs aren't nice and dropped and neutral. And if somebody's having trouble feeling these lower abs coming on, I love using a balloon. If you have a balloon handy, if you take a balloon, it really helps to get that feeling of corseting. So you would breathe in and blow up the balloon. And you can feel these abs working. Because, yeah, what we don't want is these superficial rectus abdominis muscles here doing all the work all the time. Because what that means is that the deeper stabilizing muscles, the obliques that come like that, and then even lower than that, the TVA that wraps around, those muscles are not working to their greatest potential. And so we land up overusing the back.
And it's so interlinked, isn't it? You know, once your core is functioning well, your back is supported better, your hips are supported. I mean, it just leads on to everything. So it'll be interesting if you can pop a link to the Restore Your Core thing into the comments on this when we share it. That'll be really useful, because I think for an awful lot of us, yes, we try Pilates and yes, we try yoga and we try all these things, but actually, if we're, as you say, if we're not in the first instance using those muscles correctly, we can do all the planks and all the yoga poses that we want, but we're not going to be strengthening the right things, are we?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's what I love about the program, is that it's allowed me to get back to all the exercise that I love doing, that I thought I'd never be able to do again. So it's a rehab program, but it's like stripping you back to basics and building you back up again.
Which is what every good rehab program does. So that's awesome.
Yes.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Tracy. That's been really, really interesting.
Thank you for having me. All the best. Have a lovely day.